a lot of time on your hands when you're preparing for retirement. Once you're retired, then of course there are a lot of issues. I just pick up the thread from the time somebody is just before retirement, let's say. This is a pretty good period to be in. It's, if all the financial planning and the common sense things have been done before. This is a time when household expenses start going down because the children would probably have grown up, they've gone to college, they're probably in a job, so there is no major liability. Even home loan would have probably been paid off by this time, and the only issue is that in some cases, very rare cases, there might be dependents. So that's the only issue some people might have. Other than that, there's no major issue. But the moment you retire, there are a lot of other issues. During this period, which could extend from, let's say, 45 to 58 or 60, investing is fairly simple and easy in my view. A lot of people try to make it look very complicated. Different kinds of products, different kinds of investment products, and they start including insurance as well in this whole thing. Life insurance companies is very active in trying to get people to invest through them. Life insurance is all about protecting yourself, but essentially the game of insurance companies is that you give them a lot of money so that they can manage that money for you. Essentially, they put that money in a lot of debt securities, government bonds and stuff like that. So if you eliminate those things which we don't need, and we need a fairly simple thing, which is a substantial part of the money has to be divided between fixed income and equity mutual funds. Why these two? The first part ensures that your money is safe and you keep getting a regular income out of this. The second part of the money ensures that it grows over 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. So that by the time you retire, you have created a substantial corpus which can beat inflation. That being a very, very important goal in India, because we human beings are not all the time conscious, or we are not capable of calculating constantly how inflation is eating away our money. What seems like, if you ask somebody who is 25 and say that I'm going to give you 2 crores when you're 60, he'll say 2 crores, that's a hell of a lot of money. But if he sits down to make a calculation, what is the value of 2 crores after 40 years, it'll come down to so little that it'll virtually not even possibly cover a couple of major operations at that time, 40 years hence. Inflation in urban areas is running, according to me, at around 9%, no matter what the government says. Sometimes it's even more than that. Inflation in certain kinds of expenses, which is even more than 9%. On an average, it's 9%. But if healthcare, it's probably in double digits. Somebody from ICICI Lombard, they are constantly tracking these costs because they have to sort of track the hospital expenses, how much they reimburse, what kind of room rent they'll pay for, and so on. Their own calculation is that inflation expenses in urban areas is 20% compounded. So inflation is a major factor in any sort of long-term planning, because you should have enough of money post-inflation, calculated post-inflation. And the only thing that can help you beat inflation is anything that grows a lot over a period of time, which grows at, if the inflation is growing at 9%, it should grow at 11%. Then only you have 2% extra. And there are hardly anything that is giving you 11%, 12% plus, except equity mutual funds. And of course stocks for those who want to take a little bit of risk. All the other products have an inherent flaw in that they are very safe. The moment they are safe, they give you lower return. There's just no getting away from this simple fact. If you want safety, you have to settle for lower returns. If you want a higher return to beat inflation, you have to take a little bit of the risk. This is my suggestion. You can change the percentage figures, but you have to consider having some part of your portfolio set aside regularly for 7 to 10 years at least, and that's the horizon that I talk about as long term, would be in equity mutual funds. I don't have to elaborate too much on the first part, fixed income, because that's where all our attention is. We all know very well which are the fixed income options, starting from bank FD. We all look for which company is giving us 2% extra, and so on and so forth. So this is where people can understand, relate to very easily, because that's a fixed amount of money that you're getting. If you do this on a 10-15 year basis, given how much money you can spare, obviously if your surplus is so little that it doesn't make a difference, and of course that's a different story. But if you're able to spare 25, 30, 40,000 rupees a month, anybody who's in the 40 plus range would probably acquire a very good amount of money by the time they are retired. I have just as a matter of illustration suggested how this would look like over a period of time. Suppose somebody is 45 over 15 year, one could aim to get a blended return of 10%. That comprises on an average 12% return on the 60% part of your equity mutual fund portfolio. So 12 into 60% is 7.2% you get from the equity part of your portfolio. And if you're likely to get about 7% return, I've taken an average of 7% because some people are in tax paying bracket. So they do invest. If they've invested in fixed income products, it's taxable. That's another problem of fixed income. They not only don't beat inflation, they're taxable as well. If you are in the tax bracket. So if you have an average return of about 7%, which according to me is quite generous, 7 4s are 28, 2.8. So you have a blended return of 10%. If you sort of invest 26,000 per month at 10%, I'm sorry, that figure has jumped for some reason. You are likely to get about 1 crore of rupees by the time you retire. 12% is the value on an average of the growth of equity mutual fund.
Value growth plus income.
That dividend is not much. Essentially, it's the growth of the shares which mutual funds buy, and that is fully tax free. So one of the greatest things about mutual fund is that not only it earns you more, but it's tax free as well. The only problem we find in trying to buy this is it is volatile. It goes up and down, so it scares us. But over a long period of time, it works beautifully. Anybody who had invested in HDFC Equity Mutual Fund 20 years ago, that equity mutual fund in 20 years has grown at 21% compounded, and I have assumed only 12%. Okay, somebody would put in 10 lakhs 20 years ago. That value has grown to 4.1 crore in HDFC Equity Mutual Fund. And there are 5,000 people only among the lakhs of people who have invested in equity mutual fund. There are just 5,000 people who have taken full advantage of this 20-year compounding machine. Okay? People go in and out. Sorry.
Can I ask you one?
Yes, please.
For inflation, is this the only equity you mean, or there are others like property or any other areas?
The problem is that what is practical? I have 26,000 rupees per month. What property will I buy at 26,000 rupees per month? That's my monthly surplus. Yeah, so I'm saying there are limitations. I have an average person is a salaried employee, let's say. Okay, or a business person, small business, earning a month. He's got a fixed amount of income. He's got a fixed amount of expense. He's got a fixed amount of surplus. His first question is, where will I put this surplus so that I have enough of corpus in future? Your question would have been very relevant if there were a real estate mutual fund where I can put 26,000 rupees a month. right, which is there in the US. They're called REITs, Real Estate Investment Trust. They take money from me and they buy properties, and they take small amounts of money. So essentially, a 20 crore property is monetized and broken out into millions of people, each owning a little bit of this, exactly the way we are owning shares through the mutual fund route. So that vehicle is not there in India. It's just been allowed, but it's not come. As and when it comes, you can. The second problem is that you can buy one property in a lifetime. You can't have a collection of properties. Property prices grow differently in different places, right? Somebody who is in, let's say in Calcutta, I'm giving an example. So for him, even if he was able to sort of buy property with a loan and sort of invest in it, over a period of time, the appreciation of that property is going to be far different from that of Pune. Completely different. It will be a 50% difference in the appreciation part. I'm not talking of the value. If Pune grows at 10 times over 30 years, Calcutta probably will grow at 5 times over 30 years. I'm just giving an example, right? It's not a product, it's not a homogeneous product. It's not available to everybody. Finally, it's an illiquid product. At 60, you want money. You don't want a property with which you can't buy anything out of that property, right? You have to sell it, or you have to sort of give it out on rent. There's much more bigger complication. And then finally, if you're living in it, there is no value, literally no value. So you have to create another property for this kind of. So then the transfer, stamp duty, maintenance, costs. The other day I read a remarkable story of a person in Calcutta. Once again, she was living in Bombay, had a flat in Calcutta, given out to a Colgate employee, middle level to senior level employee. That employee worked with the society and got that property transferred to his name. She had to go all the way. It's remarkable. This only happens in India. She had to go to the Supreme Court to get that High Court order vacated. She won in the lower court. They probably bribed the High Court, got the order back, and she had to go to Supreme Court for her own property. So there are multiple issues in buying a second property and maintaining and deriving value out of that. And finally, it's not tax-free like equity mutual fund. You have to pay long-term tax on that. Yes, please.
What would be the value today, let's say?
Of
1 crore. We're close to 1 crore, let's say, 15 years down the line.
Right.
Zero, what would be the value approximately?
I can calculate and give it to you. It's a compounding thing. I can't sort of calculate immediately. My answer to this gentleman was that essentially this is liquid. It's tax-free. Anybody can buy and anybody can invest any amount of money. Starting with 5,000 rupees is your initial subscription. Then you can do even 500 rupees as well. Now, post-retirement, there are a lot of issues. I'm afraid it's the single most complicated area of financial planning, and there are no easy answers to this for a variety of reasons. The principal reason being that nobody knows how long you need that money to last, essentially how long you will live. This is the central problem of any planning post-retirement. The actual issues are where to put the corpus. This is easier. What is the expected rate of return? We can look in the past and get some idea about what is the expected rate of returns. Tax implications, easier to calculate. How long will the savings last? A little more complicated. Depends on what are the expenses, what are the lump sum expenses. If you need an operation, boom, your principal goes down, and so on. How much and when to withdraw from the principal, when to withdraw from equity mutual funds if you hadn't followed the path that I talked about, and any other post-retirement income or support. This is, of course, the single biggest factor which changes all calculations. This presentation is designed to, with the assumption that you want to do all by yourself, you don't want to be dependent on others. But if you have that support, of course, that is welcome, that's additional and so on. And when I look around, I see most people are supporting in some way or the other their parents, including bigger expenses. So, so maybe this is too tough sort of scenario that I've created, but it's good to sort of plan for that. I was mentioning earlier the problems of inflation. Now here is a chart where suppose you start with a corpus of 1.66 crore and you have invested in first scenario in a product which gets you a return of 9%. And in second scenario, we invested in products mainly bank FD. Everybody's favorite financial product is bank fixed deposits. If you have that kind of money and if you have put that money in bank FD, you're not likely to get more than 6%. Why? Because your interest income will be taxed. And post-tax, that is going to be your return. So, for instance, if you're right now, it's why I taken 6%. Right now, 8.4, 8.5, 8.7 is roughly the kind of interest that you're getting. 70% of that remains, 30% tax, so it comes to around 6% or so. Suppose you start with yearly expenses of around 60,000 per month. Right? There are people who've written to us saying that my expenses is 1 lakh a month, retired 2 people. All right, so it depends on what kind of lifestyle you have. I've just assumed 60,000 per month, and there is an inflation of 9%, which you have not calculated. 1.66 crore is a lot of money. All right, so what happens is that in that more of the purple scenario, your income starts getting added to your corpus, and so therefore it's going up, but you're withdrawing as well, right? And in the first year you withdrawn 60,000 per month, so 7,20,000. Next year it's 9% higher, so your expenses are heading higher. What will happen is that very soon you will start drawing from your principal, which is that purple line doesn't grow any further. So which means that you have started drawing down, and roughly about in 19 years, the money will be over on these conditions. Obviously, this is a very simplified picture, but to illustrate the impact of inflation only. In a second scenario, instead of 6%, you have invested in some product, some combination of products where your income is, let's say, 9%. Some manner of 9% income. What happens is that money lasts much longer, which goes on right up to 85. That's the time the money, 60 plus 25, 85. So, meanwhile, see the relentless rise in monthly income, monthly expenses, if the assumption of 9% is correct. So this to illustrate, not this won't happen to us, something much better will happen, and so on. There would be other sources of income, maybe there'll be support. So I'm not saying that this is the fate that is staring at you, but just to illustrate the big difference the income, this choice of financial products can make in combating the effect of inflation. Now, unfortunately, all these calculations are not taken into account when people recommend what is safe retirement products. I must emphasize the word on what's safe. You're 60, you're retired, you have to be safe. Your capital has to be protected. There's no question about that. But if you do forget the previous chart, you will end up with products which are not correct. For instance, immediate annuities. What happens is in the situation in immediate annuities is that you give that 1.66 crore, you give it to an insurance company and you get a monthly check. Sounds wonderful. You're absolutely safe. The insurance company is very reliable and so on. But what is the calculation of the insurance company? They assume that they have to pay this annuity check for a very long time. Okay? So they're running a business. They cannot take a chance of facing what you have faced in the previous chart. They don't want to run out of money at 25. They have to budget for the fact that you live for another 5 years. Where is the money going to come from? Not from their pocket. How will they adjust this? By paying you less. If they pay you less, they make your money run longer. It's as simple as that. There are only two variables here. Amount of money per month, how long it's needed. If the time period that it's needed is indefinite, literally indefinite, because you can live till 85, 90, 95. So another 10 years from there, life insurance company is not going to pay from its pocket, which essentially means that your monthly payment will be adjusted. They work with a simple calculation. They work with mortality tables. They look at your condition and they assume. Plus, in case of bank interest, there's no other cost. Bank is making profit from somewhere else. The bank is making profit by lending that money. So while they're paying you 8.7%, they're lending it probably at 12%. So that's where they make their money, minus their overheads and costs and so on. LIC is not a lender of that range. Their earnings have to necessarily come from safe products. Why it has to come from safe products? Because they've given you a guarantee. When I give you a guarantee, I have to be very, very cautious about the money I've taken from you. I have told you I'm going to pay you an annuity check every year as long as you live. So what will I do with your money? I'll put it in government bonds. I won't lend it to Reliance. And government bonds are going to give me 8%. So LIC's income from the money that you've given them is 8% gross. Nothing more than that. Then comes their costs. Then comes all those advertisements to get you to invest with them. And their overheads. And their other losses. If they bought Jayaprakash Associates, they'll be writing all those losses. Where will that come from? So essentially it will be 6%. On an average, annuity used to pay even less than that. The Insurance Regulatory and Development Authority has told them you have to provide guarantee. The moment they said guarantee, half of them ran away. They don't want to guarantee. Why they don't want to guarantee? Because many of them have foreign parents now. Many of these insurance companies, like Aviva and this and that. So they have seen in US and UK and Europe what guarantee means. Because they are no less aggressive over there than our brokers and financial intermediaries, and they had to write a lot of checks. In UK, I think they paid out fees and penalties equivalent to some 16 billion pounds on account of what is called PPI, payment insurance or something. PPI it used to be called. Okay, so that was guaranteed. It was like an annuity product. They went and invested in certain products to get higher yield. Those went down in the 2008 financial crisis. So the game of annuity is this, that it has to be safe. Because it's safe, the returns are low. It's as simple as that, and you would get low returns. Second, senior citizen savings scheme. Not a bad scheme. Gives you 9% or so most of the time. The percentage varies. But there are some limitations to that.
Is it tax-free?
No, it's not tax-free. Then what is called MIP, or monthly income plan. I've already mentioned this annuity as well. Oh, there's another thing, it's fully taxed, by the way. So if you are in any of these tax brackets, not only you get a low return, but it's also taxed. So if somebody very wealthy, let's say, who puts 10 crores, 5 crores in annuity, the return will be 4.1%. The best of situation. Absolutely horrible. It makes no sense at all. Why do people do this? I don't know. Senior citizen savings scheme, some limitations as I mentioned. You can invest only up to 15 lakhs, no more than that. Pays 9.3%.
Is this the new scheme which has come up? Senior
No, this was there already. It was there for some time.
Some new scheme has come. NPS.
No,
Which
NPS is not there.
Which may be tax-free in addition to PPF 1.5.
No, that is something completely different. That is before that. That is up to 60. That is.
Up to 6.
It's not a post-retirement scheme. That is national payment systems. National pension system. 50,000 additional for tax-free. But as happens in India, there are too many gray areas. When you are 60, you are supposed to buy annuity of part of that. I think 40% of that is forced. You have to buy annuity. So having saved money for 30-40 years, when you retire, suppose you get 1 crore, of which 40 lakhs you have to buy that annuity, which I derided in my previous slide. That is forced. The insurance company, you have to buy. 60% will be given to you. That is taxed. Long-term capital gains tax. They have not clarified what is a tax. There are two different interpretations. There are people who are spreading lies. Just now I was on Twitter and somebody came on my timeline and said, you must talk about NPS. So, we are against NPS. We've done all the calculations. We've all done on the numbers. So I went to his timeline and try to check what he or she is tweeting. So somebody is asking immediately right now, so what about the tax implications? Which is a correct question. So this guy is replying saying that it's a little gray now, but it will be like mutual funds. So that person says mutual fund is tax free after 1 year. Yeah, like that. Which is a total lie. Because the law is very clear. It is be taxed. How it will be taxed is not clear. Whether it is a long-term capital gains tax or not, in which case it's 20% plus indexation, or it's going to be like a normal income. CBDT is not clear about that. So we don't. Fortunately, for the hundreds of products that are available, if you really take a hard look at them, the universe of investable products really shrinks to just a few, because most of them are either harmful or irrelevant, as we call it. Like annuity is positively harmful, post-inflation, post-tax basis. Some of them are better, but I'll come to that later.
Which scheme is this?
Which one? This is a bank. All banks sell this. This is a 5-year scheme, 5-year lock-in. 5 years lock-in, maximum 15 lakhs. That interest rates keeps changing. This is 9%.
Right now.
It's 9%. So how much would the tax rate be? It's okay for those who are in the 10% tax bracket, who have no tax. It's absolutely fantastic. For those who want to invest about 15 lakhs and not more than that or thereabouts, they would pay no tax if they're falling below that. But other than that, to those in a slightly higher tax bracket, it's not worth it. Then monthly income plans. I don't know why they are called monthly income plans, first of all. They're sold by mutual funds. All mutual funds they sell this, especially at the time when the market is sort of volatile. These products are pulled out and pushed. Their main investment plan is to put 85% in short-term debt and 15% in shares. Okay? As you can see, there is no definite reason to expect a monthly income in this. These are products which are market linked. They go up and down with the market. So as I say, they are neither monthly nor income nor fixed.
Short-term debt means 1 year?
Yeah, 1 to 3 years. So they will not give you a check every month. The nature of this product is exactly the same as any other market-linked product. It will give you gains, capital gains. Okay, like a share, like debt mutual fund, like capital protected fund, like small cap, large cap, ELSS, foreign. It's a fund which will yield gains or losses, depends on what the situation is. taxation follows this. If it were an income, it would be taxed like an income. Like interest income is charged, as an income. It is added to your income. This will not be added to your income. There is a separate way to tax gains, and that is capital gains tax. Short term less than 3 years is fully taxed. Okay? Long term more than 3 years, 20% with what is called an indexation. That increases the cost of your investment as per inflation. What kind of returns you could expect? On an average, you would expect a return of 6 to 7%. Then you have to pay tax on that. There have been situations where you would have got a return of 12% or so. Now, this is the most important point, depending on the market. Which market? There are two markets here. One is a debt market, one is an equity market. So, if you are in a situation of where interest rates are high and equity markets are low, okay, it's an ideal situation for MIP. But these are all subjective. I feel equity market is low, you may not feel equity market is low. In any case, whether you are right or I am right will be known later, not at the time of investment. Nobody can guarantee that one or the other is right. It's only with hindsight that we are wiser. In a situation where interest rates are high, interest rates will come down. If interest rates come down, the value of debt goes up. That's how it works. And if equity market is low, it will go up. So from both the components of an MIP or a capital protected fund, you will benefit, because the short-term debt value will go up, and those debts will be at a higher interest rate, because interest rate is going down, the value is up, the interest rate attached to the debt is also higher. So you benefit. And the 15% part also you benefit from, because equity market is low and it goes up. Human beings are always optimistic. That's what was the basis of our civilization. People fall down, they get up, they plan for the next day. Unfortunately, in financial life, it's better to be pessimistic. And this is why women make better investors. They are cautious. Let me not use the word pessimism, but let me use the word cautious. Exactly the way I've described a wonderful scenario where interest rate is going down and stock market is going up and you're benefiting from both, it could even be the reverse, which is stock market is high, interest rate is little low, and both move in the opposite direction. If that happens, your 15% will make a loss, and your 85% so-called safe part will also make a loss, because both move up and down. It's very simple. If they move up, they can also move down in a given situation. There have been situations where for short periods, 2 years, 3 year periods, MIPs have actually made a loss. So far from being monthly fixed and safe, etc., you will regret having chosen a particular safe financial product. What is this have I got stuck into? And immediately human mind starts making comparisons and starts thinking of what if. What if I had put the money in bank FD? At least I would have got 8% for 2 years, 16%. Here I am losing 5%. It's a 21% difference. What the hell? So it is better to stay away from products like this, where no clear benefit is either way guaranteed. So we feel that if you try to mix this with the other, this is always what we get. We always say keep these things absolutely separate. Be very clear about why you invested in A and B and C, and don't try to have a product which gives you all three. Mutual fund industry is very innovative. Not only they have a product like this, but when gold prices were high in 2010-11, they even had a 3-in-1 product. There would be 40% in debt, 30% in or 40% in equity, and rest in gold. What is the connection between gold, equity, debt? Nobody knows. But here was an appeal. Why bother about all three different things? Buy this one and be done with. We have said that it's not a matter of how much gold prices will go up or equity prices. We feel that in principle this is wrong. So while there could be certain golden years, number of years when all three are moving higher, there is no logic to go for this, because there will be other periods during which this won't. And why it won't is because the fund manager wouldn't know what to switch from this to that to the other, and they don't move in the same direction. Keep them separate. You want to buy gold, buy gold. You want to have fixed income products, buy fixed income products. If you want to grow your money, invest in equity mutual funds. Keep all of them separate and don't mix them all together. There is a practical problem also in this. Suppose you have 5 lakhs to invest somewhere. How much would you put in MIP? You have to have some formula, some calculation. Is it going to be 1 lakh and then something else, or the entire 5 lakhs? And you have to have a very, very strong logic. Why this and why not the other and why not the third? So all in all, we don't find much of a logic to go for some products like this. In fact, we find it that these products are brought by mutual fund companies for a very, very specific objective, so that they can get your money in some way or the other. Oh, you're a risk taker, buy equity mutual fund. No, I'm not a risk taker, buy this. It has only 15% of equity. So the mind is a little at peace. Okay, only 15%, so I'm taking a little risk, without thinking of all these implications that I talked about. Okay. If you want to have 15% equity, take 15%, put your money 15% in equity mutual funds separately. Don't invest 15% through them. In any case, you cannot then choose the best equity mutual fund if you invest through them. This MIP product, which stocks they invest in, may not be as best as HDFC or ICICI or all the top performing equity mutual funds. So that's why we say there are too many reasons not to go through these.
But what the advisor says, it helps rebalancing.
It's all a bit rubbish. That's another term. Show me one investor who has actually rebalanced. Bring one to me. One investor with papers that he has rebalanced and gained. It's all financial jargon. People don't even invest carefully. Then where is the question of rebalancing?
You can do it yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. I've only assumed 12% tax-free. This is what this chart is going to show is absolutely the first thing that we should all do, which is when you buy a car, you ask, kitna deti hai? What is the mileage? You need to know the mileage of the different investment products and then go and find how to combine all of them. Very conservatively, equity mutual funds should give you 12% at least over long periods of time. I define long periods usually at 5 years, but when I'm talking about in today's context, I say 7 years at least, 7 to 10 years. Bank FDs 8.5%. This is most preferred by investors. Senior citizens 8.9. You mentioned 9. I think it's 8.9 right now.
A month ago it was 9, so I would have revised.
Okay. Tax-free bonds 7 to 7.5%. It's tax-free for those who are in the highest tax bracket. This is the product to go for. It's an absolute.
You have to lock 5 years.
No. If you're an initial subscriber, which is not valid anymore because it came in 2013, then you could still sell after a while, but there's a step down clause. You had to pay a small amount of penalty. Now if you buy, you have to buy from the market. Moment you buy from the market, there's no question of lock-in. The way you buy, you can sell.
Tax-free bonds.
Yes. It's all both available in BSE and NSE. You have to buy it through a stockbroker because they're listed in stock market, the bond segment of the stock market.
They are of some government companies.
Yeah, all government companies. The National Highway Authority of India, Indian Railway Finance Corporation, all of that. Yeah. Sorry? No. You, as I said, you buy from the secondary market like shares. You through a stockbroker who has also got a bond market membership. Through him, you can buy. You can buy it yourself also.
Aren't they said you mentioned they have 10 years lock-in period?
No. If you buy, you can sell.
The NCDs have lock-in period.
That's different. These tax-free bonds are freely traded. There's no lock-in.
REC?
So if you get them,
I think RSC is also there. There's a whole list. You go to NSC, go click on the bond segment, then there is tax-free bonds. Click on that, you have the whole list.
and they clarify how much percent you are going to give by way of interest.
See, that you have to calculate. Why I mentioned 7.
What I mean to say, as a bond, they give 7% bond or whatever, and then you calculate what is the market value.
Absolutely. They are 8.75, between 8.4 and 8.75.
But they are more than the paid-up value. That's why you say 7%.
Yeah, because they were all issued at a time when interest rates were higher. Now that interest rates have gone down, the value of those have gone up. And on that you're getting 8%, which means you're getting 7%. Yeah.
So what about preferential shares?
Preferential shares of
Of company.
which companies?
Not from Google, not
Um,
you issue preferential shares on which there is no dividend tax.
preference shares are reasonably good products, but they're not always available. They're not continuously available. Only when they issue you can get. I'm talking about mostly about products which can be bought anytime. And most of the time you can liquidate them also, except that senior citizen savings, it's a 5-year lock-in.
This equity mutual fund, as far as the interest or dividend is concerned, is there any compulsion on these fund houses to give a certain percentage of dividend if they make so much of profit?
No.
They can say even if we have made profit, we don't want to give, like any company. It's like that.
Absolutely. You should not be buying equity mutual funds for dividend, because ultimately it's there in the corpus. So if they pay you dividend, your NAV will go down also.
Yeah.
So it's your money, they're giving it to you.
But now that you can buy a small quantity of share
Yeah.
because of the demat,
Yeah.
then is it worthwhile going for equity mutual funds or some good companies like say L&T, ACC or some,
Shares.
yeah, in short values, short amount. What is your suggestion for that?
I'll discuss this shares versus stocks, shares versus mutual funds later separately. I'll spend a few minutes on that, but I would advocate. Well, it depends. Somebody who's really active, interested, is able to track, can go for shares, but I would say it's only for those who have that level of interest and passion. It's difficult for most people to spare that kind of a time, get that right kind of resources. See, the point is, the moment you step out of this place, you have 20 people in various ways attacking your mind, whether it's the hoarding that you see or the paper that you read or a person that you see on television or something that you read in Facebook. There are multiple sources of free and not well researched advice. So I can, as a category, as in principle, I can say yes, shares give higher returns than mutual fund, but it means nothing, because if you just go out and buy Reliance shares, for instance, a large company, a lot of cash flow, the stock has not gone anywhere in the last 5 years, nowhere. 6 years, from 2009 till now, market has gone up twice, doubled. Reliance shares is down 10% or 15%.
But a good way would be to follow the stock that
Yeah, but this is a foundation, so I don't discuss what I do. This is a free.
Because
No, but it does help.
No,
It needs
here-
to be discussed.
Yeah, that we'll do in a different forum. So otherwise, people will feel I'm pushing my own stuff.
here what happens, you depend on the fund manager.
Yeah,
So that you be the fund manager.
Yeah.
That's what I mean.
yeah,
Then accidents happen like Nestle, ITC.
yeah. Now, imagine an investment of just 25 lakhs for the long term. So you could have possibly, to explain all that I've talked about so far at retirement. Scenario 1, only in bank FD. which what the majority of people want. And scenario 2, an option where you can earn 2% extra through a mix of other products. Okay. In the first case, in the two cases, the differences are going to be enormous. In first case, and it's taxable, your wealth grows from 25 lakhs to 85 lakhs over a 20-year period. Okay, this barely beats inflation, according to me. In the second case, with just 2% more on an average. This is all average figures, and actually has to work in future, but conservative assumptions. With just 2% extra can result in 38 lakhs or 45% more. Just 2% more, right? So it's worthwhile trying to go beyond bank FD and try to add a little higher yielding. So the lesson from this is that try to improve upon a fixed income products with adding something more to your 25 lakh, 10 lakh, 50 lakhs, whatever you want to invest in. And how to go about doing that. And why? This is the why part. Post-retirement, one has to plan for 25 to 30 years to live. Okay? You have to make a choice at that stage. If you want 100% safety, you're going to get a certain kind of return. If you want to get a little higher return, you have to take a little bit of risk. In fact, as I mentioned earlier, thanks to the kind of inflation that we suffer, you have no choice but to take a little bit of risk. Higher yielding products means you have to move out a little bit from your bank FD because it's taxed and it doesn't beat inflation, and leads you to create what I suggest a two-part portfolio. Part 1 or part A is fixed income. So you reverse what you have done before retirement, which was 60-40, now it's 40-60. So fixed income should be 60% of the portfolio, and this is going to give you regular income. Whatever be the kind, make sure it's the correct fixed income, not the Chinese fake fixed income like MIP. Any fixed income that gives you a check, actual cash in hand at the end of the month or quarter. And the other part should be in growth, which you don't need to touch for 7 years, 10 years or whatever. This is the money that you're going to need later. Suddenly, when you feel that your fixed income part is not enough, you would be glad that 10 years ago you had invested in equity mutual funds, and all that money has now substantially grown into a corpus from which you can then sell and sort of draw down, partly sell and draw down and so on. And during this period, if at all something has to be withdraw from the fixed part if it's possible. Let that money grow, because it's common sense. Anything that is yielding 8.5% should be used now. Anything that's growing at 12% should be not be touched, because the compounding impact of the 12% is just enormous. Okay, that figure is just going to increase. Don't kill the golden goose. That's as simple as that. And of course, you need to time your withdrawal. It's a completely separate, complex part into the future, which I'm not going into right now. This is your expected return from a portfolio like this. 40% equity part, I've just reversed it. 12% on 40% is 4.8. 60% on 7% is 4.2. Blended return of 9%. Okay. It'll probably be more, because as I said, I've assumed a very conservative estimate of 12%, when in the past, with all the problems and troubles that India has faced from 95 to 2015, a very difficult period for India, HDFC equity mutual funds has grown at 21% compounded. It's the same team which is still managing it. Same mind, same approach to picking stocks. And you will keep up with inflation. So 25 lakhs grows to 1.4 crore, much higher, and gives you that leg up later on. Where to invest in part A, which is a fixed income part? Corporate bonds traded on NSE, worth extremely, like they are gold, when interest rates on bond yields are more than 8.5%. Let me explain this. Right now the yields are about 7.7%. When interest rates are high, that is more than 8.5%. In fact, it touched 9% for a brief once or twice sometime in August 2013, when there was a lot of turmoil in bond market and stock market. We have a regulator which is very active. We have by and large a Ministry of Finance which is also very responsible for these macro issues, and especially in situations when there is a crisis. This is a mini crisis, this is not a major crisis. When bond yields go up, these are government bond yields, okay? When government bonds are yielding more than 8.5%, this is a time for the government, especially mainly the RBI, to take some tough measures. India cannot afford to have bond yields which is more than 8.5%. Why I'm saying this? Because the biggest borrower is government. And the last thing that the Ministry of Finance would want is to borrow more and more at such high rates of interest. The government spends most of the money it borrows on salary payments. It's not that it can afford to borrow because it is building infrastructure which will yield more. It's borrowing money to pay salaries and regular government expenses. That's where much of the borrowings is going. It's a giant Ponzi scheme because the government is able to do it. But still, it will not want interest rates to keep going up. And this is a pain level for the government. Moment there's 8.5% plus, there's alarm bells. There will be frequent consultations between RBI and Ministry of Finance, and RBI will do something to bring the interest rates down. A variety of measures that they have, which Raghuram Rajan did in 2014. And interest rates immediately came down, and now it's down further. Overall, this from 8.5, if the interest rates comes down to 7.8, it seems like only about 0.7%. That makes a huge difference in bond market. The bond prices will move by 15% or so because of this 0.7% movement in interest rate. This is exactly what has happened, which is why the bonds of 2013 have just shot up. They have become 115, 120 and so on and so forth. That is a time when interest rates are high. That is the time to buy bonds, listed bonds of any kind, tax-free, non-tax-free, anything that is listed. If you want a timing tool, it's very difficult to find a timing tool for stock market because it can keep going up on speculation. But RBI does not allow too much of speculation in bond market. Beyond 8.5% is a timing tool. It's a right time to buy bonds because interest rates will fall and bond prices will go up. Second, tax-free bonds. If you are in a 30% tax bracket, as I mentioned already, it's traded on NSE. What can go wrong with this? Suppose you buy a tax-free bond today. You may have bought it at, let's say, 110. I'm just giving an example. If you buy it at 110 and interest rates go up, everybody is expecting interest rates to go down. Suppose it goes up, that bond price from 110 will become 100. Okay? And you hold it, let's say for 10 years. You're getting 8.5% on that. And you suffered only a 10 rupee loss over a period of 10 years or 15 years. So what is the worst that can happen? You will hold on, you will not sell at a 10 rupee loss because anyway you bought it for the interest. You bought it for your 8.5% interest, tax-free. Yes. If it falls, if the interest rates go beyond 9%, 10%, then of course we are all in trouble. The entire economy is in trouble. That's a different story altogether. Corporate FDs. Much less now. There used to be rampant, large number of corporate FDs. All the time companies used to come and raise money. You would notice that they have vanished. Earlier, Indian Express used to have this long advertisement saying 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, 11%, 12%, 13%. From TV18 to Tata Motors, everybody was raising money. That has become much less because 2013 Companies Act is very strict. Only certain kind of companies were raising money through corporate FDs. Weaker companies, they have no other recourse to raise money. Okay? They can't borrow from the bank so easily. So a company like TV 18, Network 18, I remember, used to borrow. Network 18 is a television channel, loss making. No bank is going to lend to it. Lend against what? Against the equipment which becomes obsolete every 18 months. Lend against what? There are no profits. So they used to come and raise money at 12% or so when interest rates were 8.5%. But because they were weaker companies, there were defaults as well. Yash Birla has not paid so many people the money that he has borrowed. There's so many complaints that we keep getting that I've invested so and so in this FD, in this real estate company or this company or that company, and I'm not getting the money back. What can I do? You couldn't have done anything earlier. There was no scope for redress. Now, the 2013 Act makes it very difficult for no company which is not more than 500 crores in net worth are not allowed to. There are two criteria. One is assets, one is turnover. But it's become very, very difficult for companies to come and just raise money through fixed deposits. But there are cases like these. I was just going through a website to find out. Look at a company like, ignore the Prism Cement one. Somebody wants to take a little bit of risk. But look at a company like Kerala Transport Development Corporation. It's a government-owned company. Kerala State. Is it going to go bankrupt? Most unlikely. It will be impossible for a state government company to go bankrupt. Very difficult. Paying you 10.25%. Your exposure is only 12 months. You want a higher yield? I've assumed only 9% in my previous calculation to get 45% more from bank FD. I'm not saying take all your money out of bank FD and go to this. But this is an option. If you put 10% of your money or 15% of your money in an FD like this, immediately your yield goes up. It's far better than your bank FD. This is roughly a model fixed income portfolio that I talk about. I'll have 3 such slides. One for 10% tax bracket, one for 20%, one for 30%. Roughly, this is your post-tax figure. If 9% is your bank FD, I've just assumed certain figures, whole round numbers for ease of calculation. 10% tax, so 8.1% is your post-tax return. Allocate 60% of the money. But do take out 40% of the rest, which is still lying in bank FD, and invest in a slightly higher yielding product so that you get an effective rate of return of 8.34%. If you're in a slightly higher tax bracket, which is 20% or so, try this. This is again a very, very model rough allocation so that you increase your effective rate. You would notice that you're going down seeking higher yield to escape Mr. Arun Jaitley. Whether it's Mr. Arun Jaitley or Chidambaram, doesn't matter. They're all there to pick our pocket. 30% still higher allocation. 45% of your money should be in this one product, which is tax-free bond, if you're in a 30% tax bracket. That was about part A, which we all want to know. And it's complex because we don't look around searching for all of these things. We just think only in terms of the bank. Part B, equity mutual funds. Surprisingly, nobody invests in this, but surprisingly easier. Much easier to choose and invest in this because complexity is less, no matter that you are averse to invest in this. As I said, this can be 40% of your investment. Choose 3 to 4 funds that have done well over 7 to 10 years. It's very easy to make these choices for the simple reason that good funds are consistently good. If you go by the top 10 funds of different years, you will find certain people coming again and again in the top 10. These are the good boys. They're coming fairly high up in the class. And it's very easy to choose. It's not that one guy is there here and then he disappears. Or is there for 2 years and not there for another 8 years. It's not like that. choose 10 years, see the fund which is there in the maximum number of years they're in the top 10. It's a very, very easy thing to choose. And they're all freely available in Money Control or in Value Research online or whatever. Go large cap equity mutual fund, 10 years. So you get a figure. Then choose year by year you can make a choice between 2000 to 2001, 2001 to 2 and so on and so forth, and see who has come up in top 10 the maximum number of times. It's a simple choice. Choose 3-4 of them, not more than that. Choose from different fund houses, possibly, because funds from the same fund houses have a bias for certain stocks. We have just done an analysis of HDFC top 200 and HDFC equity. 80% of the funds of the stocks are common. 80%. Okay, 37 stocks occupying 80% of the portfolio. They are common. So choose one from HDFC, one from, again, I'm not recommending these, but just a thought. Choose one from different fund houses. One from UTI, one from HDFC, one from Birla maybe, and so on. Give the funds at least 7 to 10 years to perform. This is the part of money. There's 40% of your money you don't need. And you don't need for 7 to 10 years for any reason. Put that money in equity mutual fund. All that is designed to help you do it all by yourself with all your own money and no other support. As I mentioned right in the beginning, most families have some form of support, mainly their children. So this is a very, very important factor to take into account. Indian children do support their parents, especially for big expenses like hospitalization. But anyone looking for complete independence and trouble-free retirement will have to save more and take a bit of risk, which I have explained, and I've told you how. I'll just summarize what I have mentioned. Step 1, find out whether you are in this taxable income. That's very important, because your choice of what you buy is dependent on whether you're paying tax or not. Your first objective is to save that stupid 30% that government is going to take from you, or 20% is going to take from you. Step 2, those in 20% plus tax bracket must look for higher returns. Create a two-part portfolio, a fixed income portfolio with these products. Second part, equity mutual fund portfolio for 7 to 10 years to beat inflation and support higher expenses later. Thank you very much. Questions? That's it.
How frequently we should look at the portfolio of mutual fund? How frequently?
Sorry?
What she's asking is how frequently should we look at the portfolios or change the portfolio of mutual funds to review or churn it around, or to buy and sell, or to check. For example, we had two mutual funds, one HDFC Top 200 giving 15% and Franklin Templeton giving us 40%. So the fund advisor said that sell the HDFC Top 200 and buy Franklin, or change over.
Your advisor doesn't know the future, so don't try this. There's no reason to do this.
Suppose we have made a mistake in one mutual fund, that's what we realize. So how frequently should we, or when do we know that we have made a mistake?
If you choose the way I have suggested, if you choose in the method that I suggested, which is based on the performance of 10 years, which essentially means, why have I said 10 years? Funds have been around for 10 years. It's not that they've come 2 years ago or 3 years ago, whatever. They have faced all kinds of market cycles, all kinds of economic situations, all kinds of corporate issues. And they have performed. And they have performed consistently. So if you make this choice, beyond this, everything is unknown. Neither you nor your advisor would know whether you've done the correct thing or not until certain time goes by. And there's nothing one can do about it. This is the method, and this is what we have to be satisfied with. If you try to change and chop based on somebody or the statement or the other, you get lucky, but you can make mistakes also. There are certain things. The central point about anything other than fixed income is that it's not fixed. It's uncertain. Let me explain this a little bit. We are most comfortable in dealing with certainty. We want a definite statement, a definite advice, a yes, no, and we want to know what's going to happen in the future. None of these things will work if you have invested in a product which is a product of uncertainty, and that is equity mutual fund or stocks, which is underlying that. So the approach, the right philosophical approach, is to make a choice and be happy with the outcome.
Hello, I want to suppose in mutual fund compared to good quality A class large cap equity shares like Nestle. Now something happened in the last 1 week or something like that. Or ITC. All these shares have come down. Now if you have to compare such type of stocks with mutual fund, what is your advice?
See, my advice is that you have to have a method of how you are making the choices. If you're able to make these choices, the names you mentioned are fine. But we deal with these kind of questions every day. There are people who have come to our website, and we offer in another service, we offer a portfolio advice or restructuring. All we do is look at the stocks and tell them what to do or what not to do. It's very easy for us because we have a framework. So we put it through that framework and falls in, falls out. Our experience is that by and large, 90% of the people buy stocks which are not worth buying. So that's the behavior that I see. So they bought Suzlon and come and ask, what should I do? Somebody in Twitter, same timeline, comes and says that one and only one stock I bought and I'm out, himmat nahi hota hai, Reliance Power. This is the reality. People buy only these stocks. For some reason, like moth, people are attracted to what is talked about, what moves, what is exciting, what is new. All these things attract us. So when Reliance Power, so much of hype, one of our office's colleagues' driver wanted to buy Reliance Power. He knew nothing about stocks. That was his first investment. Demat khol ke wo dal diya paisa. He's a driver. So to say that you should buy stocks is easy. But people don't have the discipline to stick to quality. If I say that you should buy Asian Paints, the first answer I'll get, but it's so expensive, it's already gone up. In the paid thing that we sell, these are the discerning people. They're paid money. It's so hard for people to put their hands in the pocket and pay anything. These are paid subscribers of our stock letter. The first question they ask is, all these stocks you recommended, they've gone up so much, you're still asking us to buy. Nestle, Asian Paints, Hindustan Lever are expensive. You go back and check, they have always been expensive. But people don't want to buy expensive stuff. We, as I said, we take our understanding of what works in other part of life, which is bargain, which is this, and say, oh, it's gone up so much, why should I buy this stock? When it comes down, there'll be hundreds of reasons again not to buy. So when it's going up, expensive. When it's going down, it's problems. Maggie, let it get resolved. Then Indian Express has written a story saying that there's a problem in the milk powder also, baby food. Somebody in Delhi has found lava in baby food. So you see, now this was Maggie is 30% of the portfolio. Milk is 20% of the, 50% of the portfolio is under problem. Why should I buy it now? As I said, if you ask people around, there is 101 reasons not to buy stocks. People are very, very clever in coming up with an excuse of not buying stocks. Either Europe is collapsing, or dollar is collapsing, or there is policy paralysis under UPA, or X or Y. There are always 101 reasons for human mind to avoid buying stocks. Within that, they go and buy this Suzlon. Those who have gone over that and have become a risk taker, they buy the worst. So there is a way of doing it, which is to buy companies which make high return on capital. At one point of time, I did a number that Nestle in 2011 or 10 or so, Nestle's return on capital employed was 100%. Meaning what? If shareholders' money was invested, let's say 100 rupees is invested in that, it is making 100 rupees on that every year. It's come down a little bit because it's very difficult to keep making that 100 rupee on the new money, because you make 100 rupee 1 year and then you give a dividend, that 100 becomes 200. Dividend goes, maybe it's 190. You have to make 100% on that. You have to make 190 next year. It's very difficult. But companies like Castrol and Nestle and Colgate and Hindustan Lever have they're like machines. They find a way. They attract the best of people. The point about buying stocks is that they earn a very high return on capital, and the market values that. The second, why do they earn a high return on capital? This is the second question, and the second answer is the real reason to buy stocks. Because these are pockets of excellence. They have the best of people. They can pay any amount of money and get talent. They spend money on training. There is research and development. There is marketing. There's enormous amount of work that is going on between 9 to 9, not just 9 to 5, in making profits. And you are a part owner of that. That's the economic basis for buying shares. Why would you want to do that if the owner is Tulsi Tanti or Jaiprakash Gaur or Anil Ambani? That model is broken down over there. Those people are working for themselves. They're not working for you. There is, India is increasingly getting better and better quality of entrepreneurs. There are people today, younger people, who are much more conscious. They feel that we have taken, people have entrusted this money with us. They are our shareholders, they are our partners, and they should benefit with us. So you buy stocks only where high return on capital is there, and or promoter is extremely committed. The second part is very difficult to know. The second part gets reflected in the first. So over 10 years, if the company is continuing to continue to earn a high return on capital and paying 30% taxes, nobody wants to pay tax if there are no profits. They'll show taxable profit something, book profit something else. So these companies earn and pay taxes. There is a process and a method which is there. These are the companies one should buy, but people don't buy them. Yes?
Yes, 1 minute. NTC is a different category slightly, because that is a reflection of government attitude.
Yeah.
Or probably government policy.
Yeah.
I don't know much how to talk about, or explain their attitude. So what do you suggest about NTC? If they are going to bend upon, putting down their feet, that no tobacco, so what is going to happen?
INTC, I think, will find a way. I mean, they have started a process about 25 years ago. Not 25, they started a process in 1970, 45 years ago, when they were exporting marine food. 1970. I remember having read a paper of that time. So they saw this writing on the wall and they started moving away from hotels and stuff like that. So that is their job. The board is going to ask the management, what are we going to do next? The questions that you're asking, they are debating internally day in and day out. Their lives depend on it.
Sir,
One second.
One extra last one. Infrastructure and power sector now. And that is
They do not earn high return on capital. They are lousy companies.
Sir, you gave us so many advices on what to look for, where to invest, how to analyze, etc., etc. But my dilemma, my question may sound very dumb to most here, because I think most majority of the people understand finance. I am a person who knows to earn money but who doesn't understand finance planning or any of this financial analysis. It's like you may be a CEO of a company,
It's all
but
very, very
when you
simple.
fall ill,
Anybody could understand this. I'm quite certain about
No,
it.
I am sorry, sir. That's why I'm calling myself dumb person, because if you may be a finance person, when you fall ill, you dependent completely on a doctor. I find myself in such a position that, when it comes to planning, I am dependent on somebody else's advice, and that at that time, as you say, you gave an example that equity manager or a fund manager, whoever will sell you something, but you use your 2 cents to understand what he's trying to sell you and whether you benefit from it or not. How do I analyze it when I don't know that I don't know?
Are you a member of Moneylife Foundation? Please do.
No, I've become a member today.
I was just as dumb as you. I don't call myself dumb anymore.
Because ultimately it comes to depending on someone and trusting someone. Who to trust, how to trust. It's always been a big question. There may not be an answer, but I felt like asking you.
No, the only answer is something. The only answer in this is something that you may not like to hear. So no point in me telling you.
One question I wanted to ask, when you spoke of the corpus 25 lakhs, what you didn't mention was that it should all be invested at one go, the 60-40 or 40-60, or whether it should be invested in bits and
We've noticed that there is no point in
bits and pieces.
it can be invested at one go because the one of the parts is anyway is fixed in 60% is fixed income, which doesn't lose value. There's no capital loss on the 60% part.
40 also should be put at
But
one point.
that if you have the investment horizon of 7 to 10 years, it doesn't. Have to you, as I mentioned to that lady over there, you have to have your own objective and be happy with it. If you have to aim for something which is more than 12%, if it's 40, it's 90, it doesn't matter. There are only 2 things in this. You have to select correctly and you have to hold it for the long term for an expected return of 12% plus. There are certain questions. You can ask that question, but what purpose is going to serve that finding out? If you say that I want 40% return and I want to get out. I want that 40% return and I want to get out of 1 year. I'm sorry, nobody can give you that. There is no way to pick that. So what your mind is seeking is not worth seeking.
I have a question. Sir, I have a question.
Nestle and all are good shares. You always proclaim that. So this should be a good time to buy Nestle.
Sir, I have a question.
Thank you so much.